Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
This is going to be a very fascinating interview. Of course, so many of our interviews are pretty good, I would say. And we do have special people that call in from all over the country. We have a lot of people who call in and they're here local, and then they come into the studio. But I have Dan Buettner on the line, and he's founder of something called Blue Zones. I hope many of you have begun to hear about Blue Zones. And if you haven't, this will be the best interview you're going to listen to. I'm sitting here with you, Dan. I'm looking at actually the Blue Zones kitchen, which I thought was terrific. But let's not go there. Let's talk about who you are and what you did to get this started.
Well, I've been a professional truant, I guess you could say. I've been working with National Geographic for over 20 years now, and 20 years before that working as a professional explorer, I guess. And my expertise has been unraveling scientific mysteries that have included figuring out why the Maya civilization collapsed and who were our first human predecessors and beginnings of Western civilization. And my research took me 20 years ago to some islands in the South Pacific that were producing seemingly the longest lived and healthiest people. And I said, aha, now that's a great mystery. And I've been pursuing it ever since.
Aha, right. So may I ask how old you are?
I'm 112.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm 59.
And are your parents living?
Yes, I was just with them this weekend celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm very blessed in the parent department.
So they're in their 80s, I assume.
Yes, early 80s.
Wow, so you've got some good things.
Roger and Dolly.
I have to tell you that my mother lived to be 94, her sister 95, my grandmother 95. So I've been very interested in this whole thing. But, of course, they did all this in Miami Beach. It's not one of the Blue Zones.
Wow. No, but, I moved to Miami Beach. I live there now.
Wait a minute. I didn't know that. When did you move there?
I moved there last year.
See, I didn't have you here in Miami Beach. Oh, my gosh. Well, now you're going to have to come up here and do the live radio, but you're in Miami Beach, so that's terrific. That's where I graduated from high school. That's where I lived, and so that's good. So, okay, well, let's finish. Let's not talk about that now. Let's talk about you. So you did give us a very quick update on really why you started all this, and that was an interesting thing that you were aware that something was going on, right?
The World Health Organization published a report in 2000 showing that the archipelago of Okinawa had the longest disability-free life expectancy in the world. So these are people who have what we want. They've lived a long time, and they've avoided the diseases that shorten our lives, like heart disease and cancer and diabetes and dementia even. So I knew enough about Okinawa to know that there's nothing genetic going on there. It's a melting pot like America is, genetically speaking. So they're doing something, or something's going on that is yielding extraordinary longevity, and I was hell-bent to find out what that was.
Okay, so start from the beginning. How did you do that? Did you start interviewing?
No, you start with numbers. So the first step was to verify it by checking birth certificates and death certificates, because there's been lots of hearsay around longevity with mythical places like the Hunza Valley of Pakistan or Vilcabamba Valley of Ecuador or the Caucasus in Georgia, where people said they were long-lived. So I worked with a team of demographers that could confirm births and deaths to make sure it was indeed long-lived. And then I got a grant from the National Institutes on Aging to develop the idea and develop a system to tease out the explanations or what we call the correlations. And then I got a big assignment for National Geographic to, and this is in the days where National Geographic would give you a year to write an entire story. They still will. It's more rare. But I had an entire year to tease out the elements of Okinawa's longevity and then find other blue zones in Europe and the United States. That was my early exploration. It lasted 3 years before I even published anything.
So let me ask you, who named it Blue Zones? Was that your idea?
I was inspired by a little-known physician named Gianni Pes in Ikaria. In Sardinia, and he was referring to an area in Sardinia, Morol province, as blue zones, and I thought that was a pretty good name, and with his permission, I kind of reinvented the idea, applying it to all of the statistically longest lived areas in the world, and now it's a trademark, but it's also a sort of approach to living. It's a set of common denominators that have produced long-lived people all over the world, and the wisdom that connects those ideas.
Great name, because it's easy to remember, but I want to keep pursuing this. So now I notice looking at some of your research, so you only have one area in California, in the United States. I didn't see any other place. Did you do another place in the United States?
No, and that came about largely because of my editor at National Geographic, a legendary editor named Peter Miller. He wanted me to find America's blue zone, and I looked for a while on the prairies of Minnesota, where I'm from. Lots of centenarians there, but that's mostly because young people have left, leaving a high concentration of the oldest people. And it eventually led me to the National Institutes on Health that had funded these longevity studies among the Seventh-day Adventists, finding that Adventists are living 7 to 10 years longer than their North American counterparts. So we named Loma, California, a blue zone, but it's a bit of an outlier. It doesn't quite follow the template as other blue zones, but still, it's an extraordinary place.
Okay, so now you have these statistics. Then you had to figure out what to do with them.
Yeah, something called the Danish Twin Study established that only about 20% of how long you live is dictated by your genes. The other 80% is lifestyle. So with the help of a board of experts, and if you come to my website, bluezones.com, we acknowledge those experts, but they were from Harvard, the University of Minnesota, and half a dozen other. We traveled to each of these blue zones to distill out the common denominators. Where populations are living a long time, what things are they doing in common? And that's really the pillars of my research.
I like those pillars because I went into your Blue Zones kitchen. I've been into, the solutions. I mean, I am thrilled with your website. I am thrilled with what you're doing. It's really where the boomer and the boomer generation wants to go, because many of them have the resources and they've had the knowledge, but they haven't had a leader to really drive them there. And I see this as you. You may be into something bigger than you wanted, frankly.
It's okay with me.
It's okay with you. What is your actual educational background? Did you tell me that? I don't think so.
No, I have a degree in English, business, and Spanish. Three degrees.
Really? That's great. I love it. It just shows. It shows that people can conquer the world and do things if they're passionate and if they're smart. And apparently this really touched you. And I cannot applaud you enough. I just want to join with you. It's something that I've been very happy with, and I don't know if you got a copy of Boomer Times yet. You can get on the web, of course, and look at it. We just had our expo yesterday at the Seminole Casino in Pompano Beach, and we had over 2,000 people, and many of whom I would say are 85, 95, and 100. We celebrated the vets. So we have another one coming up in July, and you're going to be sorry that you met me, however you met me through this, because this is what I do. I happen to be 82, but
oh my God.
I know, but I have great energy, great passion.
Sure do.
Yeah, I know I do. And it's, everybody can't understand it, but I told you about my genes. I mean, with my parents, my mother and all, but it's not that. It's something there that I have, and maybe we have to figure out about that too, because that's one thing to talk about, they're living longer, but are they living longer and active? It sounds like they are, right? I think what I've done your research, they're active. They're not just sitting waiting in God's cloakroom. Right?
The big insight we get from Blue Zones is the reason I think Americans are misguided when it comes to living longer, healthier life is because they pursue things as a result to ideas or things they've been marketed. We are relentlessly marketed this new diet or exercise program or exercise gadget or supplement, and we have it in our minds that health and longevity is something we pursue. Well, the reality is pursuing health fails for almost all the people almost all the time. There's a few single-digit percentage of people who have the focus and the discipline and the presence of mind to get the right amount of physical activity and to eat the right way for the decades necessary to avoid a chronic disease. In Blue Zones, the key insight, the takeaway, is that longevity is not something they pursue. It's something that ensues. It's a result of living in an environment where you're nudged into movement every 20 minutes or so. The option to be lonely doesn't exist because you're expected to show up and go to church or temple, or you're expected to participate in festivals and pitch in. You live in a place where every time you walk out your front door, you're in the stream of humanity. You know your sense of purpose and it's expected of you. And the cheapest and most accessible foods are simple plant-based food, peasant food, really, like I outline in the Blue Zones kitchen.
Yes.
And they know how to make those simple, inexpensive foods taste delicious. And I don't believe this country is going to change if we keep relying on programs and discipline and willpower to be healthier. It's a pretty clear lesson from Blue Zones that we need to take aim at our food environment. We live in an increasingly, you were born at a time when people ate a lot of the foods they grew, and roast beef was something you had on Sunday, not every day of your life, and you didn't drink sodas every day and eat candy bars every day, and now we're in this really toxic food environment that you can't expect people to overcome, because it's very hard to find healthy Blue Zones like food. But you know what? It's easy to make it, and it's cheap.
You'll see a pot of vegetable soup cooking in my house pretty much all the time, and it's just loaded
there you go.
with
That's
vegetables.
why you're 82.
Well, let me tell you, my mother, we're Hungarian. That was where the thing, and my mother used to cook. Always did all the beautiful kinds of foods you're talking about, lima beans and lentils and all, and famous for cabbage, soup and so I appreciate it. In fact, when I was growing up, I was 12. I remember my mother insisted I have oatmeal every morning, and I didn't like oatmeal. So she said she had to pay me 25 cents to eat it.
Well, that's not a bad idea. Do you like it now?
Oh, I adore it. I don't go a morning without it unless I have my big drink in the morning with hemp and all the other stuff. No. I am really what you've been looking for here in South Florida.
Like it.
No, but I just I have a big smile on my face. Of course, you can't see me doing this, but I've been doing this for 30 years on the radio. I have a degree in radio, television, film, and as a gerontologist, This has been what I know can happen. But it takes motivation, and why I love what you did. First of all, a name is very important, as you know, and Blue Zone was a great name. And the fact you've now have all these arteries, the recipe book, the kitchen, the solutions, you've just built on that. And then your book, of course, I can't wait to read the book. It's the 9 Lessons for Living Longer. I want to feature everything you're doing. I can't wait for you to get a copy. I'm going to get your address, and I'm going to send you one. Actually, we're online with Boomer Time. It's called BoomerTimesFL.com. But I'd like you to have this 32-page, 40-page, depends how many ads we get, magazine in your hand. Now, I have been subscribing to National Geographic many, many years. I just got one a few days ago, I guess, and they're fantastic. So are you still writing for them?
I have a big article in the January issue, the issue that says pain on the cover.
Oh, yes, I gave that away, as a matter of fact, because I knew someone in pain, but I'll have to look it up online. So what did it say? What's the title?
It's essentially the science to eating to 100. So I did a very deep scientific dive into the diets of these blue zones and explained why these foods are enhancing your microbiome and your telomeres and keeping
That's right.
So, yeah.
I'll tell you something also that I did. Because I'm down here and I'm talking to doctors and all over here and all the big hospitals and even from New York, they come down here. They want to pull the people up north and all. So I have been doing something called Cures Medical Symposiums. And it's not about me, but it's the kind of thing that you would be so perfect for. It's cutting-edge understanding, research, and education. And I have people who are so smart, and they're doing such unusual things. I have a dietitian that brings in all sorts of formulas and packages of things that really can help you. I mean, you are so perfect to be part of this. So I'm never speechless, but you've made me speechless because I am just so overwhelmed with this. Well, let's go back now to something. So did you change the way you ate once you got into Blue Zones?
Yes, I become a vegetarian. I almost don't eat meat anymore. And I'm a big believer in that. It's very clear from Blue Zones areas that the meat is a little bit like radiation. We don't know the safe level, but we do know eating a lot of it will kill you prematurely. And that's something people just didn't realize 10 years ago, and now it's becoming increasingly clear, and it's increasingly clear the traditional diets of Blue Zones. Of course, as they've become more affluent and adopted the standard American way of eating, they've been eating more, but their longevity is evaporating with it. I'll tell you the pillars. Here's what longevity diets everywhere in the world feature. Number one, it's whole grains. Wheat, corn, rice, whole grain. Greens of all kinds, mustard greens, collard greens, spinach, nuts. If you're eating about a handful of nuts a day, it's probably adding 2 years to your life expectancy. Tubers, things like yams and sweet potatoes, big, especially in the Okinawan Blue Zone. And finally, and this is probably the true secret to eating to 100, beans. If you're eating about a cup of beans a day, it's probably adding 4 years to your life expectancy. and that's really the killer app when it comes to fiber and protein and folate and, even the complex carbohydrates.
Are there Blue Zone doctors around, you think?
Well, there are doctors who have understand the Blue Zone way of eating. Dr. Neil Barnard is a doctor training other doctors on how to help their patients eat right. Dr. Michael Greger owns nutritionfacts.org. These are people, they don't take advertising and they tell the truth about what we ought to be eating and what we ought to be avoiding.
Yes, but We need to have local doctors doing this also all over the country. I actually was in Sardinia many years ago, and I love the rocks. That's what I remember about it. But it was a very wealthy place, and I'm wondering, how do the people there live in Sardinia, and they're able to, well, I guess I'm answering my own question. The food you're talking about is not expensive. Because there's
the thing to realize, you're probably thinking of Costa Esmeralda, which is in the north.
Yes, I am.
And the billionaires go there.
That's what I was thinking.
The blue zone is up in the mountains, and it's a really isolated area called the Nuoro province.
Called the what? What's the name?
Nuoro, N-U-O-R-O, Nuoro province.
Okay.
And it was inhabited by a Bronze Age culture, so they're actually a different people than the coastal people. And they've been isolated there from about the time of Christ until, the 70s, really. And they developed a very special way of eating and a very special sort of attitude, and very different from the coast, which is just 15 miles away. Even though they could see the ocean, many of these centenarians never ate fish, or never maybe ate it a handful of times in their lives. They were drinking a type of wine called Cananao, which is a Grenache grape. They were eating lots of fava beans. Meat no more than 5 times per month. Lots of sourdough bread. It's probably about 60% of their dietary intake until 1960 or so. So it's a very special way of eating.
Well, you said you are a vegetarian. Do you eat fish?
I do, occasionally.
Mm-hmm. But probably fish that's salmon or something that's coming that, fresh caught or not in ponds.
Yeah, fish. Yeah, I mean, most fish is contaminated,
right.
Not all that good for you. And fish isn't something you need. It's something I'm trying to wean myself off of. And people in blue zones didn't eat a lot of it. They were far away from fish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you eat eggs?
No.
It's funny, I crave eggs. Isn't that interesting? And I usually have an egg a day. But I poach it. I just do it casually or put spinach and all. But anyway, you know what? I do want to set up a time to meet with you since you're in Miami Beach. We're going to be able to do this. I just think there's something here. I feel so honored and so thrilled to have met you this way. And I just can't wait to see what we can do together and help society. You're very special. Do you have children?
I have children and grandchildren. So,
okay.
Yeah, I'm Grandpa Dan now.
Are you? So that's terrific. Well, I'm very, very pleased that you took the time to speak with me today, and I know that a lot of our listeners will want more information, as I do, and I will certainly hope that we can get you put into our March issue and start something a whole system of this, because I think I could be doing the best work for our readers and listeners. I would call it partnering with you, however we do this. So anyway, I'm glad that you took the time, and I'm going to need your address too. You don't have to give it to me over the phone, over the line now, but I'm going to get it because I want to send you some magazines. And so you said you're from Minneapolis.
Yeah, but I live down there now.
I know you do. But I lived in Minneapolis for almost 3 years, and that cold weather is not, I think, conducive. I don't think it's conducive for people living longer, do you?
I would say blue zones, people are more at the latitude of Florida than they are at
That's right.
in Minnesota. But Minnesota's a very healthy place. And so.
But the weather.
Well, listen, you've been the most generous interviewer I think I've talked to, and it's been a delight, and I look forward to continuing the conversation.
Oh, yes. You're going to have me, whether you want it or not. I've got to pursue this because you're just perfect. I guess you have what I've been looking for in information for our population. I'm going to now look more into what you've been writing and all, and I want to get your books, and I want to see what else. But what I may even do is on our cover every month, we usually do recipes. And I may just cover one of your major, I saw your recipe, I saw the soup, which I adore, and all the other things you have. So, okay, Dan, well, you're a peach. And
Thank you.
And you actually have an office down there or you work out of your home?
No, Blue Zones has offices all over the country.
Right.
But Florida, I just have a home office, but I'm here in our Minneapolis headquarters today.
Oh, you are?
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you very much
Dan.
for taking the time, and I'm sure we'll connect down the road.
Yes, we will. And please be
All
safe
right.
flying back and
All
forth.
right.
Okay. Bye, Dan.
Live long.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.